Hello again, simpletons. I had a great time in Hollywoodland. Unfortunately, I had obligations to do the next WrestleBound, but let me tell you about it. What did I do? I touched the L on the sign, the California Adventure sign. I saw John Ritter, John Lennon, and Chris Pratt all on the same street. I couldn't believe it either, and I also paid a visit to the Staples Center. It will never be the Crypto.com arena. We can count the years until that ends. But I went to be reminded on when WrestleMania went Hollywood. They sure as hell wish they could be. All of their top stars went there, and they tried to get into movies but failed miserably. Stay in your lane, McMahon. And fucking stay retired.
We've been covering a few different iterations of the grandest stage these past few episodes, and seeing that the next show of shows as of this video will be returning to the Hollywood area, I guess it's only fitting to look at their first run through Tinseltown, the only way I know how, by playing the video game adaptation of the event. WrestleMania 21 was the third and final WWE game on the original Xbox. We already know how the first one went. Wonder if it got any better near the end. It remains to be seen, as while THQ still retained publishing duties, a whole new company, Studio Gigante, built a new engine from the ground up, so my cup is overfloweth with confidence and sarcasm. The game is obviously based on the 21st incarnation of the grandest stage, mainly remembered for the coronation of the next two main event stars in Batista and John Cena, the first ever Money in the Bank match, and one of Big Show's most embarrassing moments. And trust me, he's had a few. The game was released solely for the Xbox just a little while after the event took place, first in North America on April 20th of 2005, then a little later in Europe on May 27th. Support goes up to 4 players, and the ESRB rated it a T, 14.
This box art leaves a lot to be desired, leaving very little to the imagination.
You idiots know what this is? No one is gonna buy this thinking it's Pitfall Harry.
That's what I think went through Vince's elderly, demented head. All that we see is the logo for Mania 21, logos for everyone else that's important, and that shiny hologram sticker that about every modern game of theirs has.
Just in case, pal, just in case.
Also, this tagline, Become a Legend, is exclusive to this game as the event stuck to the Goes Hollywood, and it only fits when looking at the back when it asks, how will you become a legend? Will you do it by creating your own championship, taking advantage of online, or the motion capturing of superstars and animations? I have no idea what they're going for here, but maybe I'll embody the legend killer and the living legend to be, as that's what they're doing on the disc. And I'll need a little more luck wishing as I'm holding everybody's favorite controller that Microsoft wants you to forget. It fits my hand, sure, but it feels as bad as seeing JBL on TV to this day.
You know, getting this all together was not as easy as you would think.
Somewhere in between playing the first Raw and now, my Xbox decided to stop working, so I had to get another one of these beasts. The first one couldn't tolerate all the shit I fed its memory. It had to off itself.
Intro before the menu was good, showing their signature intro at the time, followed by nothing but gameplay footage for a solid minute. It wasn't perfect, but it is an encouraging sign.
Then again, I don't think I can count on my theory to work for an Xbox game. We already saw one part of it go out the window. It can just as well go the other way too.
We'll see what happens when we head into a one-on-one exhibition, but not before going over the roster. And this has to be one of the weirdest character select screens in a wrestling game, not because of how you pick your wrestlers, but just how some of them look. I mean, a majority of them look like who they're supposed to be, but a few have something off about them. Like Bubba Ray never looked that disheveled in his life, and why would you have Trish Stratus without her makeup? I don't know how they made these mock-ups, but they had a nice selection regardless, as they got
John Cena! JBL stands for just beat a lizard. I'm just a sexy girl.
And that guy, you remember him, changed his first name to Lance and was a tag champ? He's dead now. But I'm picking Eddie Guerrero because this was the last Mania he'd be a part of, so I thought I'd pay tribute to the Latino heat that lied, cheated, and stole our hearts away, and he'll go against the dead man just to get that dream match out of the way.
His image reminded me of that weird time when he got back into his undead persona, had to grow out his hair again. Doesn't look too intimidating with his short hair.
It sure took a while for it to load just the fucking entrances, and I'm not sure if it was worth it either. They looked fine, but it was weird for Eddie to start halfway on the ramp with his car, and the ring ropes have some weird physics going on.
Like there's some signs pointing to this being bad, but I'm ready to be moderately surprised. Well, there you go, the game's doing most of the work for me. Take a good long look at this, because it's all you'll ever need.
Realistically, the most important buttons you'll need to know are how to strike, how to grapple and attack, and how to reverse, as that'll be your key to victory. Reversing has actually never been this easy, and everything else is more or less down to button mashing and seeing what comes out.
This game more or less is a wrestling game with fighting elements, as with every move you make will take some blue away from your opponent's meter while building up your heat meter. Would explain why I got pinned even though I wasn't as weak. Jesus Christ, Tobias, what are you doing directing a wrestling game? Go back to Mortal Kombat. Why is this taking so long?
I'm gonna be as dead as any gamer in The Undertaker's path by the time we get anywhere, but a quick reset later and we're ready for round 2. I think. It was hard to tell from commentary.
WWE comes to you from the Big Apple, New York City. It's the greatest city in the world.
I mean, we all knew he was robotic with McMahon in his ear, so Vince must be having a seizure right now.
The controls are okay, all things considered. I'm able to execute moves and reverse easily, like I said. My only issue was figuring out how to hit my finisher. I assumed getting maximum heat meant you could use your finisher, and I know Guerrero's finisher is the Frog Splash, but every time I hit A and B together on the top rope, all I got was this.
Am I calling out to Taker to avoid the spot, or is this the game's version of Toasty? I didn't need the splash, I just figured out how to pin for the win. But this game, for the life of it, still has issues getting through the replay of the end. I've never seen a game go this slow, ever. It's gonna be a long episode.
Though the loading times are still dragging this on, the wrestling gameplay has been decent, so this experience has been very meh so far, but there's still plenty of match types to go through. The first one is...
Why do we keep treating the ladies like trash?
Yeah, we were still at the time period where the women wrestlers were treated more like horny fodder and nothing more. If this is your type of fun, it is easier to play in my opinion, but I don't get any thrill out of this. This is just degrading.
More so than me now having to use Brian's personal controller. Why is it so sticky?
We have your typical match types on hand, like tag team, handicap, and your various multi-man matches. I'll talk about how they felt in a bit, but I couldn't help but notice the weird things like how the fans move next to the barricade.
What is that gesture? Are they doing their best Jeff Hardy?
I let the computers take over the triple threat as I heard their intelligence was a little lacking, and that was proven true when they got stuck trying to chase one another in and out of the ring.
How can you be so stupid?
I quickly came to the realization that I wasn't getting much thrill out of the matches. Though I'm able to play it, it does get boring after a while as the AI is a bit too easy and all it really boils down to is a slugfest. It doesn't help that the loading times are still abysmal and I worry about it freezing again that I chose to just quit before we reach an ending.
I didn't know the issues this game had were that bad, granted my disc isn't in the best condition, but can you blame smudges for this camera being dog shit? Like, is this really a good angle to be fighting with?
I tried to make things interesting. I even entered the Rumble at number 1 as everyone's favorite superhero.
I thought this amulet I found on the street would give me power, but it just led me to get hurled out even quicker.
You may have also noticed that all the multi-man matches don't have any stipulations to them. That's because any and all of them are reserved for only singles action. I don't know why that's the case or why Last Man Standing is separated from this section, but this decision clearly cut the level of enjoyment you could have in the other match types.
They didn't really think about multiplayer at all, they just kept to their fighting game roots. I guess counting beyond 2 makes them get dizzy like Cesaro's swing.
I went through the rest and they were fine, nothing real noteworthy besides the comms having some ladder advantages or disadvantages. I mean, Randy Orton can just magically teleport his ladder to where he's standing while Kurt Angle seems to be doing a little shimmy.
He was called the Olympic Cyborg at one point in his career, so he must have been experiencing a bug.
I don't know how long I can dedicate my attention to this. Luckily, we're at the home stretch with not much left. Options are actually quite plentiful, but I doubt you'd want to toggle. They really marketed the Xbox Live. I'm sure some of you remember the early days of online gaming back in its infancy. I remembered when it was free, but Microsoft sure liked money. Too bad they won't be getting mine.
Doubt a server would be open for this game anyway. I can only imagine the issues in the base game would increase tenfolds online.
Profiles I didn't understand at all, but according to the manual, it's something to set up so you can use the shop? I don't even know where that is. Maybe it's in career, but I can't go into that without creating myself, I assume, so let's do that. And if you are gonna do that, you're gonna need a lot of patience because it takes a bit for anything to load, and I swear to you it took a half an hour for me to get nearly finished. I say nearly because even when I got something out of the lack of choices, this was it, by the way, the game froze again when I was looking at the signs before I had a chance at saving, so all of that was for nothing.
I'm not gonna bother creating a championship or exploring career mode, cause what's the point if it's all gonna be finicky like this? I heard it might be worthwhile with the voice acting and whatnot, but I'll let you be the judge when you find someone else's walkthrough of it. I'm not gonna sit my ass down for several agonizing hours for it to just break again. I think I do rock those circular shades. Y'all will let me know if I look better in them, right?
This shit show split the critics more so to the negative side of things because of its gameplay and performance issues despite its good-looking visuals. You would have thought these journalists would have learned by now. Not that it hurt THQ any, as they just shifted to publishing a WWE series that worked on the next Xbox system, while Studio Gigante would fold sometime after this hit shelves. They only made one other game and were on track to making an interesting Kill Bill game before shutting down. The event the game was based on is more fondly remembered for the reasons I gave earlier, but it may have gotten a little lost in the lineage of the granddaddy of them all. They are returning to the Hollywood theming for the 39th edition this year, but if they don't do the parody commercials like they did back then, they're missing the ball on advertising.
I kinda knew going in that this wasn't gonna be the best. I first saw this game when watching Super Best Friends WrestleMania series when they played it, and encountered one of the best glitches of all time. So I knew this was going to be bad on some level, maybe funny bad on the level of 2K20, but after trying almost everything out, I've come to the conclusion that it's just bad, man.
It doesn't look like WWE games got any better on Xbox, which doesn't bode well for the game in the middle that I'll go over next season. But this is kind of what happens when you don't have an experienced developer making a wrestling game, as we've seen with other examples and will continue to see more than likely. Not to say they didn't try, they got the basic fundamentals of the wrestling in there, and in all honesty, it controlled well, but after a while it didn't get any better, and seeing that the peeps from the fighting realm kept to their fighting ways, it never felt like a true wrestling game. There was so many other things that just annoyed the heck out of me too. The dumb AI, the stupid camera, the insane option of not having stipulations for the multi-man matches, and the infuriating loading times and freezing put a damper on the whole thing for me. I wouldn't know if the condition of my disc made it any worse, but even if it made it go faster, I don't think it would make it any better than it already looks. And if that's the only thing the dirt sheets could say about it back then what else does this game have after it? Easy answer is nothing.
It could have been better, but it never got any better on the original Xbox. Don't know why THQ didn't ask Ukes to pull triple duty at the time, just to save users from crap like this. Gamers were way better off playing the competition. 1 star. What are you doing? I know some of you smarks are gonna say, I'm biased towards Ukes developed games, but most of our fondest gaming memories come from them. They were making some of the great and not so great wrestling games for 2 decades, so I'm gonna be nostalgic for them. But sometimes nostalgia is blind, and some will try to capitalize on the blindness. We see that a lot in the wrestling world, but it's also true in wrestling games too.